My new aphorism is, do it now. And that's the only time you can do it, is now. You can't do it tomorrow or yesterday. But when you're thinking about, oh, I want to be kinder, or, speak in a nicer way that people feel better, or I want to stop doing something that I'm doing that I don't like, or something like that. Do it now. I mean, you can be kinder right now, to your neighbor, or to your kitty, or to, yourself, or don't put it off, in other words. Because all we have is now. And we're constantly tending to, I'll do that tomorrow, or something. There's always something you can do now. I mean, maybe, if you're putting the baby to bed or something, you can't sit right now. But you can practice loving kindness towards the baby and patience, because you might, it's taking a little longer for he or she to go to sleep, and you'd rather be doing something else in the other room or something. So you restrain yourself and be more patient and more loving. Anyways, there's always ways that I was saying last week, but I think it bears repeating. Somebody told me that that the way I talk to people, not necessarily on Wednesday night, but just in general, I don't get my point across. I'm being so careful not to, step on their toes or offend them, or something like that, if I have a message I'm trying to get through or something, it may not get through because I'm just so, careful and all that. And my response to that is, if they just think I'm a nice guy, that's good. If they didn't get the message, so what? But if they thought, gee, seems like a really nice guy, he was really kind and all that, then I'll take that. Because life isn't about the words and the concepts and everything. And a lot of people think, especially in the West, I've noticed it for years and years, that they're taking all the key words, and trying to arrange them in the right way. And then they think, then they'll have it. If they can get the words, the concepts and the words all arranged correctly, then they'll be, I don't know, enlightened or something like that. If you get enlightened, then the words will rearrange themselves automatically. But arranging the words correctly, I mean, that's nice, but it doesn't have much effect on you. Somebody was talking about somebody mentioned some guy on YouTube that does this, class thing, or I don't know, he talks. And they said him, we'll send a link. And so I looked at it, and he was talking non-duality over and over and round and around, and like, oh, gee, like you don't, then you're not seeing things, you're seeing through things, and it's not you seeing them. The seeing and the things are all one, and like, you can't talk your way to awakening. You can and I noticed this guy's got video after video after video, and they're all at least an hour and a half long, you know, and it's like blah, 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 you know, and you, the Buddha said, and the Dhamma, the truth, is to be experienced. The words, the concepts, the suttas, the teachings, all that are just coaxing and pointing for where you should try and go. But you have to go there. The words, like I said, they're just signposts kind of, or encouragement, or, you know, things like that. But they won't do it for you. The words won't do it for you. Oh, that led me to a humorous aphorism. What was it? If there's no self, how do you get rid of it? Is that a koan, maybe?
Yeah, that's a koan.
But I've seen in many books, and they're talking about self and no self and self, and people say, "Oh God, I don't want, you know, isn't it selfish if I do this?" and all that kind of stuff. First of all, you don't even have one. Second of all, you can get enlightened without ever dealing with self. That's a little known fact, but it's actually true.
What do you mean by without dealing with it? I'm sorry, I just lost the audio for a couple seconds.
You don't. It's just there's this big accent. There's people putting this big accent on self and getting beyond self into no self and all that kind of stuff. If you're practicing insight meditation, and you get enlightened, people have 3 different gateways to nibbana. Impermanence, suffering, and not self. And one of those, depending on each person's nature, one of those rises to the forefront and becomes the object that wakes you up. And not self is not one of the most commonly used. Impermanence and suffering are more prominent, more common. More people use either impermanence. Well, you don't choose. It just one pops up and that suits your, you know, that's what works for you, kind of, you know. So, okay, and you didn't even have to think about. And then they say if you get one, if you understand one, either impermanence, suffering, or not self, you understand all 3.
David?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Can you remind me, impermanence, suffering, and not self are the characteristics?
3 characteristics.
What's the 3 characteristics? Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So you went all the way through all the steps of, you know, waking up and learning and all that kind of stuff. You never had to deal with not self because you saw impermanence. You understand not self subsequent to understanding impermanence, but you never had to deal with it. You didn't have to face not self and figure it out. It just, that wasn't you. If it is you, it just comes to you intuitively anyways. Thinking about it to some extent, thinking about all these things to some extent is helpful. You can see with common everyday understanding, if you look at what you call yourself and take it all apart and everything, you won't find a self. It's kind of like a car that's got tires and wheels and a motor and upholstery and glass and doors and horns and lights and everything, but there's no car there. You can't find a car. Car is a term that describes certain things assembled in a certain way. A car, an army, you can't find an army, but you can find tanks and troop carriers and trucks and soldiers and guns and artillery and all that. And that's what we call an army. And when you take a mind and a body and put them together, you call it a person or David or a guy or, that kind of stuff. But you can't find David. There's no David in there that you can, oh, here it is, It's just, it's what they call terms of common usage. So, but if you just do it, if you just practice mindfulness whenever you can, and, good behavior and kind speech and action and all that kind of stuff, those things just lead you there. People are always, especially in retreat, oh, my concentration isn't good enough. And they don't know where concentration is the most misused word in the history of meditation, probably, They're not, probably their mindfulness isn't very good. And they're saying their concentration isn't good. But anyways, they're analyzing and they're thinking about, that's all hindrance. And when you're doing that, you're not meditating, you're analyzing. So if you just apply mindfulness when you can, that's it. That's all. That's all you got to do. You don't have to figure out how it works or why you're why it works or what do I need to do more or should I be doing this or doing that? No. If you're just mindful, that's the miracle, oh my God, that the Buddha discovered was mindfulness. I mean, everybody's looking out there for God and heaven and signs and miracles and all that. No, it's turn around 180 degrees and it's all right there, right here. You don't need anything else. You've got it all. You got your mind, you got your body, and all the secrets of the universe are contained within those things. You don't have to even dig for them. All you have to do is pay attention to the mind and the body. And then it just unfolds. Amazing. Sariputta, the chief disciple, one of the two chief disciples of the Buddha, saw a monk. He wasn't a Buddhist. He was just a guy, a very developed guy. But he saw a Buddhist monk and said, oh, wow, who's your teacher? And he said, oh, the Buddha. He said, oh, what does he teach? And the monk said, well, I'm kind of new to this. He was enlightened, he was fully enlightened, but he wasn't up on all the doctrine and everything. That's an illustration of smart doesn't matter. He didn't know really very much about Dhamma, but he'd taken meditation instructions and gotten fully enlightened. So Sariputta said, oh, just tell me something, So he told him this one little verse. And basically it's whatever is of the nature to arise is of the nature to pass away. Boing. Sariputta gets first, becomes a stream enterer. Well, obviously he didn't have time to think about all that. I mean, it happened in seconds. His mind just penetrated to the truth and he woke up. So the point being, what we're looking for is something that isn't of the nature to arise. And that's what the Buddha discovered. I was rereading some chapters of Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda, which I first read like when I was 17 or something. And I was rereading today or yesterday, I don't know. And I'm interested in the Babaji thing. I've always been kind of interested in Babaji. And so there's a couple of chapters about Babaji. And they're always talking about, the divine bliss and the God consciousness and the supreme divine transcendental states of meditation and all this kind of stuff. And they're really heavy on the divine aspect of it. And that always kind of, it's like, is that really necessary, And then I thought, the Brahma Viharas, which are loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity, are called the Brahma Viharas. One translation of Brahma Vihara is where the gods live, house of God, the place where gods live. So I'm like, oh. And the reason loving kindness and compassion and sympathetic joy and equanimity are called the divine abidings in Buddhism. And the reason that the Hindus in the Autobiography of a Yogi and everything call all this stuff divine is because these things that we're striving for and hoping to realize here on planet Earth are common every day to the deities, to the beings in heaven, in the heavens. They live in jhana, deep concentration. They have supernormal powers. All the stuff that we're like trying to get, they have. So anyways, it was interesting for me to see so now I'm not bothered by the divine connection, It's in Buddhism also. So, did I say everything I wanted to say? Yep. Oh, and I think this is an aphorism. I didn't, it's old. Actions speak louder than words. And the first person they credit it to is Abe Lincoln. But they're not sure he made it up, but he used it in a speech or something. When I was traveling with my teacher years ago, and he was talking about something, spoke really good English. And I quoted that as kind of applying to what he was saying. Oh my God, he loved it. What? Oh, actions speak louder than words. He loved it. He hadn't heard it before. So I thought, that's great. It's pretty good. Actions speak louder than words. I mean, when the other one they say is talk's cheap. Which all kind of comes around to do it now. Don't put it off. These things that we're involved in are so special, so rare to have the opportunity to be involved in these things. There's only Buddhas at certain times, and they're billions of years apart. And all the world is still going around and the heavens are going around and everything, but they don't know these things. They don't know about mindfulness or the Four Noble Truths or the existence of Nibbana or Nirvana. Buddhas realize those things and then introduce those things to the existing society, minds, they go, oh, really? Oh, you can do that? Yeah, here's how you do it, But there's long periods where there's no knowledge of these things. So you can't, it's kind of limited to what you can do. You know, you can get real concentrated, but that's about it. And you can be very good and generous, but you can't wake up, you know. During the times when there's no Buddhism in the world, right view isn't available. You know, they think there's a God that is controlling all of us, or we're just working out our karma, or, you know, there's all these different things. And that's where you find the guys, you know, the naked ascetics that are sleeping on nails and all that kind of stuff, you know, because they think that's going to do it for them, you know. But all you got to do is pay attention. You don't have to lay on nails or go naked or starve yourself.
That's good.
Fortunately.